As of 2026, the nautical epic Mutiny on the Bounty remains the latest Best Picture Oscar winner to snag the award without securing victories from its nominated categories against the Shakespearean fantasy comedy of Errors: A Midsummer Night's Dream, romantic drama Alice Adams, musical Broadway melody of 1936, pirate action epic Captain Blood, dramas David Copperfield, Les Miserables and The Informer, musical romantic comedies Naughty Marietta and Top Hat, high hat comedy Ruggles of Red Cap, and military adventure epic The Lives of a Bengal Lancer. While the Academy's expansion of the Best Picture lineup to 12 since 1934 reflected a commendable attempt at inclusivity, quantity does not always equal quality. Charles Dickens' semi-autobiographical novel David Copperfield tracks David's struggles and relationships with rotating groups of families after repeated encounters with death and grief. The story is inherently tragic, but George Cukor renders it with languidity that a lot happens chronologically, but it seems as if nothing happens at all. David is not a riveting character because he mostly reacts to the tragedies around him with the same tenor of mopey melancholy. Freddie Bartholomew brings charm and likability to young David, but the colorlessness of his character distills his efforts.
Your mama, the precious, the darling, she's gone. And your little brother, the innocent, he's dead too.
Frank Lawton extinguishes what Freddie establishes by being unexpressive and vacant. Since David largely functions as an observer while the supporting cast propels the story, his passivity becomes frustrating. Edna May Oliver, W.C. Fields, and Jesse Ralph thankfully instill warmth and humanity into this muted drama. No Best Picture lineup from this era seemed complete without a musical. I assume this film would continue the story of the Mahoney sisters from its award-winning predecessor. Did it make it big into Broadway? How are they doing after all these years? This film would have been the first sequel to be nominated for Best Picture, but it serves more as a thematic follow-up with brand new characters and story. It still juxtaposes backstage upheaval with elaborate stage performances, but this installment boasts a broader ensemble and grander musical sequences. The characters and their interpersonal discord are formulaic, but the technical execution, particularly the staging and tap dancing, are more eventful and polished. Unlike the smaller but focused arcs of the 1929 film, this entry disperses attention across multiple performers, making it less memorable even if it course corrects many of the original's technical flaws. If Bessie Love is the MVP of 1929, then Eleanor Powell is the standout of the ensemble with her frenetic energy and outstanding tap dancing. It is also cool to watch someone reenact Katharine Hepburn's monologue in Morning Glory.
Oh, hello. What's your name? My name is Eva Lovelace. Of course, I haven't done very much. Just a little start in Boston. Oh, that isn't really my name. I just use that for the theater. But it does have a sort of melodious sound, don't you think?
As well as Buddy Ebsen, who plays Audrey Hepburn's husband in Breakfast at Tiffany's, impressed with his musical athleticism. In Captain Blood, physician Peter Blood, played by Errol Flynn in his first foray to anti-heroic epics, is charged with treason for treating wounded rebels. Condemned to slavery in the West Indies, he outmaneuvers his captors, commandeers a ship, and reinvents himself as a pirate. Errol is the spiritual successor to Douglas Fairbanks and embodying charismatic swashbucklers. Betty Davis famously remarked that Errol was not a strong actor, and while he is neither hammy nor horrible, his performance rarely reaches the highest highs or the lowest lows of acting. His expressions often remain blank when he should be florid or mighty.
Did you know you were called to attend another rebel?
My business is with his wounds, not his politics.
Did you know the law? That any person who does knowingly receive, harbor, comfort, or succor a rebel is as guilty as if he himself bore arms?
I only knew my sacred duty as a physician.
Your sacred duty, rogue, is to your king.
The film staggers once Blood becomes a pirate. While piracy is Blood's attempt to reclaim agency and stability, the narrative prioritizes the physical spectacle of freedom rather than its double-edged burdens. The film is also the first collaboration between Errol and Olivia de Havilland, who plays Arabella Bishop, an aristocratic admirer of Captain Blood. Olivia is less inhibited here than in The Midsummer's Night Dream, and it is also apparent that she excels better in character-driven dramas. Errol and Olivia act past each other, and both seem uncomfortable with their roles. Captain Blood contributes little innovation to the adventure genre, but it is intermittently enjoyable, albeit devoid of momentous character beats. Although Mutiny on the Bounty bagged the top prize, The Informer was still the big winner of the 8 Academy Awards, copying leading actor for Victor McLaglen, director for John Ford, adapted screenplay for Dudley Nichols which he refused due to union disagreements, and original score for Max Steiner. Victor's Jippo Nolan betrays his outlaw friend Frankie McPhillip, played by Wallace Ford, to the authorities for a cash reward, only to be pursued by their former comrades. From the outset, I am not a fan of its storytelling and scoring, but I regard John's visual craftsmanship and Victor's strong performance. Like King Vidor and Frank Capra, John champions the underdogs without rhapsodizing them. Like King, John also shares the eye for stark visual compositions that produce striking imagery. I salute Victor for subverting the traditional movie star performance and evinces Jippo's psychological deterioration as a man trapped by his own moral collapse. Unfortunately, a series of repetitive and excessively prolonged drunken scenes bogged down Jippo's arc. Aside from Wallace, the supporting cast seesaws between stoicism and exaggeration. The film's grim realism likely moved with the audiences and critics back then, but its dizzying and disjointed middle does not hold up to its intriguing beginning and bittersweet ending.
Forgive me.
Ah, Jippo, I forgive you. You didn't know what you were doing. You didn't know what you were doing.
Frankie! Frankie! Your mother forgives me!
Alice Adams chronicles the modest and desperate titular heroine played by Katharine Hepburn as she falls in love with the affluent and charming Arthur Russell played by Fred McMurray. Kate turns in one of her subtle and helpless performances, single-handedly carrying the simple story and the trashy Best Actress lineup with unexpected humility and quiet desperation. The film is more of Alice's unveiling into a more assured woman rather than as a love interest. The film wastes time by protracting the sweaty dinner sequence and the conflict between Alice's father and his boss about glue. By the time Alice and Arthur's romantic relationship receives attention, the payoff is muted. Still, Kate is magnificent, Fred is disarming despite being stuck in an underdeveloped character, and Alice's family, except for her brother, offer nice support. Alice Adams is not a masterpiece, but it makes you root in its central character and her pursuit of happiness and self-worth. Ruggles of Red Cap is a high-hat comedy centered on Marmaduke Ruggles, a British valet played by Charles Laughton who unexpectedly finds himself transported to America after his employer, the Earl of Burnstead, played by Roland Young, drunkenly loses him in a poker game. Arriving in what Ruggles amusingly labels the land of slavery, he encounters new social circles and develops a longing for independence. Charles's venture into pure comedy is successful as he underplays his line deliveries and does not take himself too seriously. His unease with unfamiliar social environments, alongside his bewilderment toward American customs and class dynamics, generates much of the film's chuckles. The supporting cast contributes effectively, but Charles unquestionably dominates every scene. Yet, the film also sidelines Ruggles in the way that he must be the nucleus of his emancipatory journey, but it is employers who drive the narrative. His personal development feels abrupt rather than earned. He progresses from one ideological milestone to another without sufficient transition, which would have extracted more comedy, quickly adopting American ideals after hearing the Gettysburg Address for chasing entrepreneurial independence.
It is for us the living, rather to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us.
The film treats Ruggles as a vehicle for comedy rather than an actual human being. I like this film and Charles' performance enough to raise it to its ranking despite its thematic shortcomings. Top Hat is a romantic musical comedy I have been dying to watch since I first heard it on Woody Allen's The Purple Rose of Cairo, and lately I am in my rabbit hole of Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers musicals. Fred and Ginger's love stories in musical romantic comedies follow this formula. Fred sees Ginger and immediately falls in love, Ginger sees Fred and resists him, and through persistence, misunderstandings, and musical exchange, they end up together. Top Hat is a massive improvement from The Gay Divorcee. The musical numbers feel integrated into the characters' experiences rather than arbitrarily inserted. There There's a reason Cheek to Cheek is iconic. Fred and Ginger are cuter and perform better here even if their characters are not acting challenges per se. Fred charms his way to the story while Ginger is more reserved. The film treats their romance somewhat mechanically. The mistaken identity plot is merely an obstacle designed to delay the resolution and does not advance the relationship meaningfully. The lavish production design and costumes and graceful choreography are impressive, yet I still find myself waiting for a Fred and Ginger film that views them as realized individuals rather than elegant conduits for musicals. Having been deeply attached to the 2012 musical, I was curious to see how a non-musical rendition would fare. Unlike the sprawling 2012 film, which devotes substantial attention to Fantine, Cosette, Marius, Eponine, and the Thénardiers, this one narrows its focus to Valjean and Javert. Frédéric March is unbelievable as someone who walks 20 miles for work. He appears refined and polished for someone defined by poverty, but he improves and lends emotional gravitas once Valjean is imprisoned and beyond. By contrast, Charles Laughton, the perennial 1930s go-to for villains, is the MVP. His Javert is humanized, making him engrossing even when he is hateable. Javert sparing Valjean is my favorite moment because Charles makes Javert likable, and it is fantastic to see the polar opposite men and have a human moment.
Here, see, it isn't me. It's nothing to do with me. It's the law that wants you. It's the law, see. Will you go ahead? I'll wait.
Despite its quick pace, the film suffers from narrative compression and thin characterizations. Valjean has zero fatherly instincts with Cosette. Fantine, probably the most tragic character in the story, is marginalized. Cosette, probably the least interesting character in the story, is there. Marius' political awakening and romantic entanglements with Cosette and Eponine are condensed, and the Thénardiers barely register. The courtroom and prison scenes are the only ones when I feel actual misery for the characters because the direction and execution are a little too safe to unleash the material's full emotion power. The lack of score also flattens the poignant moments. Even so, Victor Hugo's themes of oppression, redemption, justice, compassion, and hope are timeless. Perhaps the nominee with the most intriguing title, The Lives of a Bengal Lancer, follows Gary Cooper's Lieutenant Alan McGregor, who mentors two new officers, Lieutenants John Forsyth and Donald Stone, played by Francho Tone and Richard Cromwell respectively during the British rule in India. Gary underlines that McGregor's defiance stems from compassion rather than recklessness. His physicality matches the macho demands of the role, and he is hot. Francho's Forsyth is the funniest of the trio, but the emotional core belongs to the Stone duo. Richard is the film's quiet standout as the inexperienced officer desperate to earn both military distinction and the approval of his stern father, played by Guy Standing, whose devotion to duty eclipses his concern for his son. Older Stone's indifference when the enemy kidnaps his son serves as the catalyst in the second half. The Indian landscapes enrich the film visually, though I wish the story fleshes out the Indian locales rather than reducing them to antagonists. The story concentrates on the British soldiers, but still, the climactic shootout is the film's highlight as it does not over-romanticize trio's heroism. McGregor's swift demise projects conventional heroic invincibility and grants the scene unexpected realism and tragedy. The film gives younger Stone his due when he, not McGregor and Forsyth, is the one who delivers the final blow against the villain. Had the first half of the film been as thrilling as the second half and made its two leading characters as interesting as the Stones, this film would have scored higher. Being fourth is not so bad. Naughty Marietta follows Jeanette MacDonald's rebellious Marietta, who escapes an arranged marriage orchestrated by her uncle and falls in love with the mercenary Captain Richard Warrington, played by Nelson Eddy. Jeanette is more radiant here compared to her collaborations with Maurice Chevalier. Like Ellie Andrews in It Happened One Night, Marietta is funny, independent, and willing to challenge the expectations imposed upon her femininity. She desires marriage, but she is not the type of woman who will marry just because of love at first sight. Her determination to forge her destiny gives Marietta a sense of agency. One particular striking scene occurs when Marietta and the women discuss their aspirations and anxieties regarding their prescribed roles. The scene is remarkably progressive as it foregrounds female perspectives and desires. Speaking of love at first sight, Marietta and Richard's relationship unfolds with patience. Their attraction is immediate, but they first navigate personal uncertainties and growth. Their conversations are human, naturalistic, and realistic. The film has no boring moments. Jeanette carries the film on her back while Nelson more than holds his own. They are funny and they blend together even if Nelson's voice sometimes does not match Jeanette's sharp and arresting vocal cords. My major complaint is the presence of musical sequences on the shipwreck scene. Why the hell do we need soldiers singing while they ransack and hold the casket girls? Even so, Naughty Marietta remains distinctive among its contemporaries and succeeds in blending its genres together.
Every step you went away, you must have heard my heart calling you back.
You wouldn't have sung it down there if you'd ever expected to see me again, would you?
No.
When are you sailing?
Tonight. We leave in a few minutes.
Why didn't you tell me?
Oh, I couldn't. If you'd known, you never would have gone away. You'd have stood up against them all and... I'd have only had to see you. Better way to be.
Do I want to live this foolish life if I can't have you?
You're all I ever want, too. All there is.
Then that's it.
Mutiny on the Bounty covers a 2-year voyage of the HMS Bounty as it sails to procure breadfruit in Tahiti Island. 1933 winner Charles Lawton plays the inhumane Captain William Bligh, whose authoritarian leadership style and harsh discipline create mounting resentment among the crew. 1934 winner Clark Gable portrays Lieutenant Fletcher Christian, who incites the mutiny. First-time nominee Franco Tone rounds out the main cast as Midshipman Roger Byam, who is torn between loyalty to authority and friendship. Their performances differ, but they work together harmoniously. Franco is a slow burn taking bomb, Charles is a scene stealer, but Clark provides a needed stability and insurgency. Frank Lloyd's confident direction, deft camera work, and the technical aspects are worthy of admission. Unfortunately, its extended detour in Tahiti slackens its odyssey. The scenery is beautiful and it's nice to see the sailors' freedom, but the romantic subplots are needless. The mutiny itself lacks urgency and a satisfying payoff given the build-up preceding it. Even so, Mutiny on the Bounty is a stunning achievement in the adventure genre. It could have been better with its characters and its action.
Mr. Christian, you will sign this book.
Bligh, ship's company will bear witness that I sign in obedience to your orders. And remember, sir, I should demand a court of inquiry in England.
You mutinous dog.
Compared to the pedestrian melodrama, romance, and navigation epics, this adaptation of William Shakespeare's famous fantasy comedy of errors is an ingenious entry not only in this lineup, but also of the Best Picture nominees. Its dreamlike and sparkling backdrops, elaborate costumes, and theatrical staging create a world that feels suspended between cinema and stagecraft. The literary text is already golden, and I am glad the dialogue did not strictly adhere to archaic Shakespearean linguistics. The Love Quad is the most uneventful narrative strand as the characters only exist to be pawns manipulated by the fairies. Nevertheless, Dick Powell brings memorable energy to the group despite believing he was miscast and did not find his output appealing to his taste. Olivia de Havilland makes her film debut. While she is shaky and uncomfortable with her part, it is nice to see her be funny as her later works veer toward heavy drama. It is not easy to stand out in an ensemble overflowing with A-listers and newcomers with fairies or talking asses, but James Cagney proves himself as a comedic genius. Nick Bottom, probably the best character in the tale with the most insane arc, he must be ridiculous and dramatic, confident in his skills as an actor, and must perform badly in a manner only a gifted actor can. It is easy to make a mess of this role in the hands of a lesser actor, but James delivers a masterclass. The runner-up for me is Joe E. Brown as Flute, who played this guy in Some Like It Hot. He's also game in surrendering to the absurdity of his material. Their hilariously inept performances of Pyramus and Thisbe are priceless.
Outsword and wound the pap of Pyramus. Aye, that left pap, where heart doth hop. Thus die I. Thus.
Oh, bless my heart. I pity the man.
Rounding up the story is the group of fairies. Victor Jory plays Oberon with amusing seriousness, while Mickey Rooney, often cited as the weakest member of the troupe, is madly adorable as Puck. His boundless mischiefs are outrageous. What impresses me most is how seamlessly the cast works despite their vastly different backgrounds, acting styles, and levels of experience. Despite exceeding 2 hours, it never lags and left me smiling long after it ended. It rarely appears in discussions of the greatest films of the 1930s or of cinema, and Bride of Frankenstein, Anna Karenina, and The 39 Steps are mesmerizing contenders too, but A Midsummer Night's Dream is one of the most joyous cinematic experiences I will forever treasure.